Hello everybody, Timothy Bailey with Project Learn and our video for today. And then there will be a couple videos after this. This is part one. We are going to look at commas. Commas are one of the more difficult pieces of punctuation, right? The things that we use to help our sentences out, the words out. Anyways, commas can be difficult and challenging for students to use, and there are a lot of situations where using them or not using them is not easy to understand. So today we're going to look at some of the very frequent uses of commas, and then in the next couple videos, some of the less frequent uses. So let's go ahead first and talk about what is a comma. I just showed you saw the comma on the previous slide. Well, a comma separates words or clauses or items in a sentence. You can think of it, a comma, as a small pause, where a period is a longer pause, right? And we do that in spoken English, but we also do it when we read ourselves. We tend to make those little pauses. For example, there are two sentences here. I have a brother. There's a period. His name is Chris. So the period here, I would give a much longer pause. I have a brother. His name is Chris. Now here we have two commas. She likes apples, oranges, and peaches. Here are two much smaller pauses than the periods that you would have here. Okay? Now we're not making long pauses even here, but the pause for the period is longer than usually what we have for the comma. All right, so let's look at some of the situations where we use commas. One of them is with subjects and verbs. Remember, the subject is the person or thing doing stuff in a verb. The verb is what they are doing. So usually a comma should not separate a subject and a verb. My sister and I are going to the cinema. Right? Here's the subject. There are two in this sentence together. And here's the verb. And we've separated it with a comma. Well, I gave you red, just like stoplights and stoplights being red and go lights being green. Right? This is incorrect. The correct way would be without the comma. My sister and I are going to the cinema. Right? So we don't want to separate the verbs from the subject or subjects. Okay? Another situation, commas with compound predicates. Predicates are the verb part of the sentence. Compound means not just simple, not just one easily identifiable verb. So generally, we do not separate predicates, the verb part, in a sentence. The children will play, comma, and eat lunch in the park. Well, we don't need to separate these, right? The verbs, right? Will, play, and eat. We can just say the children will play and eat lunch in the park, right? They will do these two things, and this, and this. No need to separate them. Now, sometimes we do separate a verb, right? A predicate or part of the predicate from the rest of the sentence to clarify who is doing what. So if you look at this sentence in blue, the teacher watched the student smiling. And then look at this one. The teacher watched the student smiling. It's a little bit confusing here, so we've put the comma here to tell the reader, the person smiling is the teacher. So when we see this comma, this activity that comes after the comma, in this situation, this part of the predicate, goes with the subject, the teacher. If we leave it like this with no comma, then the person smiling is the student. Okay? The teacher is watching the student as the student is smiling. That's what this sentence here would mean. Okay? But in general, again, we do not separate the predicates, the two verbs, with a comma. So there's also something called comma splices. When joining two independent clauses, often two smaller sentences, you cannot use a comma alone. So the word splice means to join. Okay? Let's look at an example. It rained all day. The game was canceled. Now, our two independent clauses, two smaller sentences, it rained all day, subject, verb. The game was canceled, subject, verb. If we have subject, verb, we cannot combine them with just a comma. That is a splice. We can, however, use a conjunction and a comma. So we're going to use so and the comma. It rained all day, comma, so the game was canceled. Okay? This is good. And another option, it's a little more difficult, and students have trouble with this one as well at times. Even native English writers have trouble, is to use the semicolon, this here. So here we are joining them without a conjunction. Very similar to the first sentence, but we can't do it with a comma. The rules of comma usage, this is not allowed. A semicolon can be used. It rained all day. The game was canceled. Okay. Now, why might we do this? Well, we might do this just because we like the feeling, the sound when this follows like this. We don't want the conjunction in there, right? Maybe we like the way this sounds. And we might also do this just to have a different sentence structure. So it's not always, right, a conjunction combining the sentences. But in general, the best advice that you can have is to do this. Comma, conjunction, to join two independent clauses. Another example, commas in introductory phrases, right? Usually, a comma is used when a phrase introduces a sentence. After finishing her work, Amika went outside to play. Amika went outside to play. This is an independent clause, right? This is a dependent clause. It is not a sentence, right? There is not a subject, right? There is a verb, right? Finishing. But look at this one, subject, verb. So if we do this, it must look like this. After finishing her homework, comma, Amika went outside to play. This clause, this dependent clause, introduces this sentence. It tells us something related to this sentence. She did this after this, right? Now keep in mind, if you've watched the other video where we talked about this sort of grammar, if we move this introductory phrase after this independent clause, then we would not use a comma. Amika went outside to play after finishing her homework. That is also good, okay? Another situation, commas with compound subjects and compound objects. A comma should never separate a compound subject or a compound object. Katende and his brother are from the Congo. The subject is two people, Katende and his brother. Okay? We cannot just separate them with a comma, right? Another one, for the object, they, Katende and his brother, have two dogs, comma, and a cat. We don't need the comma here to separate these two. What we can say instead, Katende and his brother are from the Congo. Good. They have two dogs and a cat. Good. We'll just keep the conjunction with no comma. Now, sometimes we do want to use two commas if the information is not necessary. If it is supplemental, we might say, my friend, comma, Katende, comma, is from the Congo. We don't need this information. If we took this information out, my friend is from the Congo, this is still a sentence. So supplemental information, information that is not necessary, we do use two commas, right, to add it to the sentence. So that takes us to our next group, commas and supplemental information. Supplemental information is usually separated with two commas. Take out the information. Is what you have left still a complete sentence? Then you probably need the commas. The new student who is from Cambodia is a painter. This is the supplemental information. If we take this out, the new student is a painter is a sentence. So this then must go inside commas. The new student, comma, who is from Cambodia, comma, is a painter. Okay? Commas and comparisons. We never use a comma when comparing two things and using than. Chemistry 101, a university class, is harder, comma, than Biology 101. So we're comparing two classes, Chemistry 101 and Biology 101. But we're using than, so we can't use a comma here. All we need to say, Chemistry 101 is harder than Biology 101. Okay? Subject, verb, and then the object that we're comparing it to. I hope that was helpful. Here are two links with more of the rules. We will look at some more of these in the next couple videos. Next time you're writing, next time you're using English and you're using a comma, take a look at your sentence and make sure you're using that comma correctly. Thank you and have a great day.